It's good to see so many of you here. Chief, how are you? Good. So if you would please remember to silence your electronic devices, and please stand and join me in the invocation and pledge. Lord, we ask your blessings upon our country during this divisive election season. Help us all to remember that a government of the people and by the people inherently involves debate and disagreement. Help us also to recognize that hatred and violence has no place in American politics, and that as Americans we should all be united in condemning it. Despite our differences, let us all remember that we are Americans, and despite our imperfections, our nation is the greatest experiment in democratic freedom in the history of the world. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I think everybody's catching on to this, but we have a little tradition in Temple Terrace where we start every meeting with a fun or historical fact involving our city or the area. And tonight, that duty falls on Councilmember Schisler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My historical fact for this week, I wanted to do a comparison of our current budget, which we're working on now, back to one in the past. So I decided to go back to 1980, nice 45 years ago. My daughter was born that year and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so looking in there, I went back and I found the Temple Terrace Beacon for September of 1980. And back at that point, the mayor was J.L. Richards. City Council was comprised of Bill Hammondtree, Frank Ferrari, Fred Wisenhut, Charles Hollis, and Bob Owen. A lot of us knew many of those individuals. The city manager was Joel Colford. I don't remember him, but regardless.
Former county commissioner.
Huh?
He was a former county.
Oh, was he really? Okay. Just some interesting numbers. The 1980 general fund budget was $2.7 million. Our budget that we're working on now is $45 million. Personnel costs within that budget was $1.8 million. Our personnel costs are $29.7 million, comparatively speaking. In capital spending, we spent $105,000 that year in the budget. This year, just in general fund, it's not counting anything else, almost $7.8 million. Our total budget back then, now this doesn't add up that way because you have utility funds and so forth, was $4.4 million. Our total is over almost $101 million. The tax rate for 1979 was 5.299. The proposed and the finally approved rate was 7.10. That was a 34% increase year over year. Now, I'm not sure exactly how it happened, but there was a discussion that went back and forth where the citizens were going to have to approve something along those lines because it was such a big increase, I guess. I'm not sure what the details were. But the city manager was quoted saying, it's going to be the citizens who are going to feel the effects. If they want a reduction in services because they don't want to pay the tax money, fine. They get exactly what they asked for, no more, no less. So it was pretty dicey out there during those meetings back then. I'm glad I wasn't there. So I decided I wanted to take a look at some of the other things that were going on in September of 1980. In other news, and this is 1980, it's not now, the housing shortage. Newlyweds might have to move back home until they can afford a new house, go back and live with mom and dad. And this was covering single family as well as multifamily opportunities. There just wasn't enough housing to go around for everybody. And the new construction, just comparatively speaking, 1963 was $18,000. In 1976 it was $44,200. 78 it was $55,600. In 79 it was $60,000. Last year's is $340,000 in our area for now. Inflation was running at a double-digit pace, and the interest rates were at 11 to 12%. So things change, but they don't really change if all up and down. Other things in the news, Fat Man's Barbecue, Lupton's, had announced that they were expanding to a second location on 30th Street near Fowler Avenue. This would expand the enterprise to 2 restaurant locations and a 50-acre location in Plain City. They had over 180 employees back then. and everybody here went to, I'm sure, the long-timers had gone to Cafe Don Jose at one time, and the sea bass alla russa, which is one of their favorite signature dishes, was only $5.25. Another critical fact that was going on was the rate of loss of prime farmland in Florida was so bad that we could virtually lose all Florida farmland by the year 2000. Keep that in the back of your minds. Then we had some elections, and the recent elections created a runoff for October 8th for the BOCC, Board of County Commissioners. Two people that were up for election were Fred Anderson, experienced, ability, and integrity, and Joe Kotbus, of People's Choice. As a note to that for the people who are relatively new to the area, these men were successful in getting elected to the BOCC. However, a few years later, they ended up going to prison on corruption charges due to resulting from zoning bribes, along with two other commissioners. We used to have 5 county commissioners, then it was ended up with 1, and 1 were FBI raids, so they made it to 7. And then last but not least, buried on page 20 between student achievements and the Florida Land Report, which I already talked about, was Beth A. Taylor and James Chambers Jr. were married on August 16th at Temple Terrace Presbyterian Church. The bride is the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Spafford Taylor. She's employed at Foster Elementary. The bridegroom is the son of Mr. and Mrs. James Chambers Sr. He is employed at the Temple Terrace Recreation Department. After a honeymoon to the East Coast, the couple will reside in Temple Terrace, and we're glad they did. And that's my report for today.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. That was really excellent. So an interesting thing, I was talking to somebody recently, and they were talking about the land boom of the 1920s in Florida, and how the land boom in the 2020s in Florida is there's a lot of parallels between the 1920s and the 2020s. You know, 2020s is when Davis Island was dredged up, the causeway was built. There was this huge expansion, people buying up Florida real estate, and I can't for the life of me figure out why with the mosquitoes and no air conditioning, but that was a good job, thank you. So our next item is Employee of the Month for August, and so for those of you watching, we have, well, Carla, if you want to explain, you've recently kind of made some changes to our employee recognition.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, good evening. So this is actually largely the work of our employees and Jeannie Barlow and the employee team, really trying to recognize the great work done by our general employees, not to leave out our police and fire. They're excellent, but they have their own recognition programs. So we wanted to make sure that the whole team had an opportunity to kind of shine here and be recognized before the council and the public. So today will be the first of hopefully a monthly tradition that we'll have before you, where we basically present to the community someone who's really stood out in that last 30-day period. So today will be Cheryl's day, and I'll leave the rest to you.
Very good, thank you, Mr. Biggs. So, Mrs. Shingleton, would you like to approach, please? Got to walk the gauntlet here. Good to see you, Cheryl. How are you?
You too.
Good.
Doing good, sir.
So, over the past 2 years, Commander Cheryl Shingleton has led the charge on implementing the city's new Pro-Phoenix CAD system. That's CAD, Computer Aided Dispatch. That's the program they used in the 911 center to dispatch our police and fire, which has been a real game changer for both the police and the fire department. She's put in countless hours, including late nights and weekends, to make sure everything went smoothly, and her dedication has paid off immensely. Thanks to Commander Shingleton's hard work, the police and fire departments are now running more efficiently, saving both time and money. The new system has really improved operations, making it easier for our departments to serve the community effectively. Despite managing this huge project, Commander Shingleton continued to oversee the communications unit and the records division without missing a beat. Her work ethic and commitment are truly inspiring for all of us. Commander Shingleton has not only made a significant impact on police and fire operations, but also has brought credit to the city by showcasing how committed we are to innovation and efficiency. Her efforts have made a lasting difference in the city's ability to keep the community safe and well served. We are very proud to recognize Commander Shingleton as the August Employee of the Month. would you like to say a few words?
I'm short on words when it comes to this. I'm not a public speaker. Put me behind a desk, tell me to do my job, you got it 110%. I'm very much appreciative. It's an honor, very much, and I think it's a great program. And I hope it lasts. I hope others continue to strive. My worst day, I give 100%. My best days, I try and give 110%. And I think that's all that anybody can ask. Other than that, again, it's very much appreciated. And I will do so until 30 years, what I promised you, Chief? 2 more years? Okay, until Chief is gone. Then after that, I can kind of cut loose and leave. But otherwise, thank you so much.
Well, you're welcome, and you've been with us for a while, and you've served the
Almost
city
28
in
years, yes.
several capacities, and your reputation is stellar in your performance. You're regular, always a high performer, and always has been. So, thank you.
I appreciate it.
Chiefs, would you like to join me?
All right, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Still.
Whoops.
Okay.
Our next topic is a proclamation for Missing Children's Day, and I don't believe the person who is going to receive that is here. But since it's on the agenda, we'll go ahead and read it into the record, and we will send it to them. Whereas the second Monday of September is Florida Missing Children's Day, and this day is dedicated to raising awareness about missing children in Florida, particularly those missing due to family abduction. Whereas family abductions impact numerous families across the nation, causing significant emotional and psychological trauma to both the child and the left behind family. September provides a crucial opportunity to support national efforts to reduce family abductions, reunite missing children with their families, and honor those committed to this cause. Temple Terrace is committed to remaining vigilant and informed about the dangers facing children in our community, recognizing that family abduction is a serious crime in all states. I, Andy Ross, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace, Florida, do hereby set aside September 9th, 2024 as Florida Missing Children's Day. So we will get that in the mail to them. Next is appointment to our library board, and I'm going to pass the gavel. We're going to try to do something a little different here. We're going to pass the gavel and let Councilmember Chambers, since this is one of his boards, handle this issue.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. There's one regular member vacancy on the Temple Terrace Library Board. The city received an application from Mrs. Carol Dell. Mrs. Dell's term will be expiring September 21st this year. I think she needs to speak. If you'd like to speak, Mrs. Dell?
Sure, always.
Thought so.
We need to set the timer.
Well, I do love the library, and I think it's one of the best assets we have in our community. And I've enjoyed being on the library board for, I don't know, a while. I don't know if y'all know this, but the library board has no limits to how many times you can run for the board. That might be the only one that you can't term out of. You can just go on and on and on until somebody decides to challenge you. So evidently nobody's challenging me, so I would be grateful for another term on the library board. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Also, Ms. Dell is our chairman of the library board, so maybe she'll be re-voted for that. I don't know. So if any questions or comments, could I get a motion to approve Mrs. Dell to the library board?
Move to appoint Carol Dell to the library board effective 9/22/24 till term expires in '27.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Chambers. I'm taking the gavel back. So, has everybody had an opportunity to review the September 3rd council meeting minutes? And if so, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion or corrections to the minutes? None. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. The minutes are adopted. Next are persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. There are request to speak forms in the back of the room and should be filled out and handed to the city clerk to my left. There is a 3-minute time limit imposed on all comments from the public, and we do ask that speakers come to the podium and begin by stating their name and city of residence. We have two familiar people that are very familiar with the rules already, but I have to read that. So the first person signed up to speak is Mr. Loeb. Good evening, Mr. Loeb.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Charles Loeb, Terrace Park. Tonight I want to talk strictly about announcements of things going on in Temple Terrace, some that are on your bulletin board and some that are not. First, of course, and most obviously is the one coming up on Friday, which is the Senior Expo between 9 and 12. One thing that is not on the flyer on that, I was talking to the chief about this, is the brown bag with a badge program. You're supposed to bring your own food, and the board said that it's supposed to be from 11:15 to 12 o'clock. However, the chief advised you get there a little earlier. And the idea is that if you want to talk to police, about police issues, I guess, or whatever, that you would have a chance to talk to them over at the Senior Expo. Now, the Senior Expo itself, has been going on now for 35 years. And I think it speaks for itself. Next week, on Saturday, September 28th, there's going to be a collection of food at the library by the Women's Club. I was trying to find out if it's the same thing that the police department, going to the same place. I have not been able to do that. But if anybody has food and things to donate over at the library, the Women's Club will be picking them up on Saturday, September 28th, but it did not say when exactly. I would assume the next meeting would be on October 1st, Tuesday, October 1st. Now, on your thing, that's National Night Out, which is the Temple Terrace at the Temple Terrace Family Recreation Center at 6 to 8 p.m. And that is a very nice event, too. I've been to that before when it was over at the Mission Hills Church, and it's really a lot of fun if you can get over there. I even thought about the idea that maybe you might want to do something a little bit different, but I'm not sure if you can do it technologically or not, but hold the meeting over there so you all can participate. And finally, I saw something in the TBT called the Temple Terrace Uptown Chamber of Commerce meeting. It does say that you need a ticket, but it's a free ticket, and it's for a business expo. And that's Tuesday, October 8th at 4 p.m. over at University Mall. This is as much as I know about it. But if anybody is interested in that, it's not on your bulletin board and all that, and it's actually outside the city limits. But anyway, it's supposed to be done by the Temple Terrace Uptown Chamber of Commerce. So if you're all interested in some things to give it thought, or anybody in the audience is too. Thank you all and good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Loeb. Ellen Snelling. Good evening, Ellen.
Good evening, Ellen Snelling, 521 Lantern Circle, here to talk about politics. I did see also on the bulletin board that I think it's October 2nd, that at the, now I'm drawing a blank, but there's going to be a conference or where you could get to know all the candidates. And so I hope everybody goes to that. So I just wanted to remind everybody to get out to vote. Starting in October, which is right around the corner, we're going to get the mail-in votes are going to be coming out, ballots to our house, as well as early voting. So I specifically wanted to talk to you about Amendment 3. I personally am opposed to Amendment 3. That is the amendment that would legalize recreational marijuana in the state of Florida. And I just wanted to tell you there's several other actually important people who are opposed to it, such as the governor, Senator Danny Burgess, Senator Rick Scott, Congressman Matt Gaetz, and Attorney General Ashley Moody. And also there's organizations such as the Florida Baptist Convention, the Florida Convention of Catholic Bishops,
the Florida Sheriff's Association, and many more. So there must be something that gets you thinking, like, why are all these groups and people opposed to it? So these are some of my concerns. Number one, the right to smoke marijuana should not be in our Constitution. I think we have to be very careful with constitutional amendments, and even voting anything into the Constitution, you have to just educate yourself very carefully on. Marijuana is illegal at the federal level, so our state would be taking a risk by legalizing it. There's no time, place, or manner restrictions placed in here, so actually public smoking is allowed in the Constitution. And you'll hear the other side say, oh, well, we'll pass a law and make it illegal. Once something's in the Constitution, it's very hard to regulate it because first thing that happens, lawsuits. Amendment 3 allows 3 ounces of marijuana possession. That's 85 grams. That is the highest in the entire country. California allows 1 ounce of personal possession in their legalized marijuana amendment. So do we want to be the state that allows the most in the whole country? Do we want to attract people to our state and be known as, you know, the pot capital of the United States? I don't. The marijuana industry is granted criminal and civil immunity in the amendment language. So if you read the summary, it actually sounds not so bad. You might say, oh, it doesn't sound too bad, I'll vote for it. But you need to read the entire 4 pages, and then you'll find out some of these loopholes. A big concern that I have is that there's one medical marijuana company that has put, this is hard to believe, $90 million into the campaign. And you may wonder, why would one company put almost the entire amount of funding into passing this? Well, first of all, they helped write it. They got the surveys, and then now is that my time? Okay. Anyway, so just ask questions, educate yourself before you go to the polls. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Snelling. All right, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve.
The consent agenda.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Consent agenda is approved. Next is a resolution approving a 5% increase in monthly rates for city water, irrigation, and wastewater services. And our finance director, Jim Ingram, who's been getting a lot of stage time these days, is back up to explain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. After review of the city's ordinance and customer rates and fees, the city staff recommends a rate increase of 5% in water, irrigation, and wastewater rates and fees effective October 1st, 2024. Effective with the billing cycle on or after October 1st, 2024, the water, irrigation, and wastewater rates would be as follows. For water, increase the base monthly water charge from $3.49 to $3.66. Increase the per water meter monthly charge. This is for the standard residential, that's a 5/8 inch meter, from $4.18 to $4.39 per month. Increase the water consumption rate from $2.36 to $2.48 per 1,000 gallons up to 8,000 gallons. That's actually 8,000 gallons divided by 1,000. We do it in increments of, so if you use 8,000 gallons, it would be 8 times $2.48. Just want to make sure that's clear. Over 8,000 gallons, which we call discretionary use, it's from $3.94 per 1,000 gallons to $4.14 per 1,000 gallons. For irrigation, we would increase the base monthly irrigation charge from $1.73 to $1.82. We would increase the per irrigation meter monthly charge from $4.18 to $4.39 per month for commercial only. There will continue to be no charge for residential irrigation meters. I think that's very uncommon, but we will continue to not charge separately for the irrigation meters. Increase the irrigation consumption rate from $2.38 to $2.50 per 1,000 gallons up to 8,000 gallons. Over 8,000 gallons would go from $3.97 per 1,000 gallons to $4.17 per 1,000 gallons. On wastewater, we would increase the base monthly wastewater charge from $4.18 to $4.39. There are no separate meters for wastewater, so there's no wastewater meter charge. Increase the wastewater consumption rate from $11.42 to $11.99 per 1,000 gallons. And there's no jump in the rate over 8,000 gallons in the case of wastewater usage. A full list of the proposed in-city rates is included in Exhibit 1. And if you want to get a full list, and you do not have one, you can call utility billing. You can call the finance office. We will be glad to provide that for you. If passed and approved, then the rates will certainly be on our website by October 1st. An average water, irrigation, and wastewater monthly bill for residential customers based on 6,000 gallons water and wastewater use per month, and 3,000 gallons of irrigation use per month would be $103.34 currently. With the new proposed rates, it would be $108.52. So basically, if your current bill is under $100, which I know a lot of people are under $100 a month, your increase would be less than $5 a month. If we could pull up the slide now, I want to show some differences in our comparisons in rates between some of our major players here, Tampa and Plant City. You can see there's it's kind of all over the board as far as the variations. Some have higher base fees, some have lower usage fees. I can tell you that Tampa, the base fee for water, wastewater, those are all going up $1 or $12 annually. $1 each for each month of the year will be, it's a $12 annual rate. It's not a percentage. As you can see, on the water, we are in the middle between Tampa and Plant City. In wastewater, we are unfortunately the highest. A lot of that is driven from what we are charged from Tampa, as well as our just in general wastewater and water both are driven by our need to replace the infrastructure. Irrigation, we are the lowest. Again, we have no meter charge for irrigation, and we are significantly lower on the monthly base fee, a little bit higher than Tampa on the usage, and less than Plant City. These are based on proposed rates for 2025. The thing, it is hard to put all these together and compare apples to apples. I would encourage anyone that's interested to look at the websites of the individual cities, because each local government has a different way of doing their utility rates. For instance, just an example, where we have a structure of for water, a per usage cost based on 0 to 8,000 gallons, and then 8,000, and over, there's a different charge. Tampa has about at least four different tiers of increasingly higher rates the higher you go in the consumption. So it's just something interesting to look at, especially if you're a higher user of water or irrigation. We threw up on the list stormwater assessments because that is a fee. It's not a usage fee, but it is something I think Tampa bills it annually, but it comes out to $14.30 a month. It's a combination of a couple of stormwater assessments. Plant City has one that is scheduled to go up to $9.52. So if you put them all together based on 5,000 gallons a month, should have used 6,000 like in my early example, but this is based on 5,000 gallons of water per month and 3,000 gallons of irrigation. And as you can see, Temple Terrace, if you add in the stormwater assessment charge, we're actually lower than even Plant City. If you take out the stormwater assessment, we're still slightly lower than Tampa. Let's see. Let me go to the next slide. See if I can do this right. There you go. Thank you. Oh, back. Thanks. And this just shows you some of the rate increases that have been proposed for effective October 1st, 2024. As you can see, we're 5% across the board, water, wastewater, irrigation. Tampa is 11%. They have a program currently in place because of their aging infrastructure, which is driving up their rates. Plant City is at 3% across the board. Again, the base fees, Tampa, all of their base fees are going up $12 a year. Wastewater, which does affect us because we get wastewater from Tampa, is increasing by 3%. All in all, our 5% is, the rationale is not only we have to keep up with the city of Tampa's charges that we have no control over, but we have aging infrastructure as well as most communities across the United States are dealing with. Fortunately, we don't foresee 11% or double-digit percent, but 5% is what we propose to keep us at a 25% of our fund balance to operating expenditures. That is a standard that the Governmental Finance Officers Association recommends. That is what we try to attain to so that we are covered for emergency expenditures, which do happen, unfortunately, with these systems. So I will end it there, and I will stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? If not, council members, are there questions for Mr. Ingram? Councilmember Fernandez.
So I just want to make sure that we're very clear about this. In years past, the city did not keep up with the rising prices that we were being charged from the city of Tampa for wastewater treatment. And so now we've tried to be consistent with the increases because in the past we did have a large increase. Is this 5% increase part of that, basically that schedule of increase that we've been anticipating and is we plan the budget around?
Yes, it is.
And for, where does Plant City have their wastewater treated? Are they also with Tampa?
I do not know that.
Yeah, they're not.
They have their own,
Okay.
own system.
I just wondered if, for our purposes, the city of Tampa was our only choice with wastewater treatment. I know it's cost prohibitive at this point to build our own, but I'm talking about okay. So,
Now, that's a Mr. Tinch question.
so I mean, and obviously I know this, but it's more for the public to know that we have researched and we do our best to keep the costs where they are as reasonable as they can be. This is an area that we don't have control over this because we have, at this point, no other option for treating our wastewater. But I do want to make sure that this increase that we are proposing is part of that schedule of increase that we talked about a few years ago to maintain some consistency and not have people facing a very high increase at one time. So that's it.
That's correct. If you read City of Tampa's literature, which you can go to their website and learn about their PIPES program to improve their infrastructure, they say essentially the same thing, that they went for years without raising, and now they're playing catch up.
Other questions from Mr. Ingram? Thank you very much, Mr. Ingram. Is there a motion?
Move to approve a resolution of 5% increase in monthly rates for the city water, irrigation, and wastewater services, effective October 1st, 2024.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion? I do want to add just a real quick comment on this, and as Councilmember Fernandez and Mr. Ingram already alluded to, much of these increases over the past couple of years have been driven by the increases that we have to pay the city of Tampa to treat our wastewater. And I've had several conversations with Mayor Castor over this issue, trying to plead with her as a dissatisfied customer, so to speak. But Mr. Ingram alluded to their infrastructure enhancements are really what's driving a lot of their increases. A lot of their infrastructure is aging. They are trying to get to ways of discharging less effluent into the bay. They're also concerned about, on the other side of the bay over in Pinellas, there's been several in recent years spills that have gone into the bay of just raw sewage, untreated. That's not happened here, and they're working very hard to prevent that kind of thing from. So hopefully we can get to the point where our increases are maybe more predictable, but we've made up lost ground so that they're smaller each year. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish. So. Okay, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. The resolution is adopted. Next is unpleasant also. This one's a resolution approving a 5% increase in monthly rates for city collection and disposal of solid waste and recyclables. Our Finance Director, Jim Ingram, will explain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After review of rising solid waste disposal costs, customer rates and fees in the city's ordinance, city staff recommends a rate increase of 5% in the monthly rates for the city collection and disposal of solid waste and recyclable service effective October 1st, 2024. This increase will allow the city to do the following: keep services at the current level of twice weekly service for trash, once weekly for yard waste and recycling, and one free annual pickup. Replace aging sanitation vehicles that incur costly maintenance and repairs. Keep up with increasing tipping fees imposed by the county while exploring cost-saving alternatives. Effective with the billing cycle on or after October 1st, 2024, the monthly The monthly rates for city collection and disposal of solid waste and recyclable service would be as follows. Increase the curbside collection rate from $33.67 to $35.35 per month. Increase the qualifying senior exemption residential curbside collection rate from $21.48 a month to $22.55 per month. Increase the commercial dumpster service monthly charges to a range of $82.80 for a 2 cubic yard dumpster with 1 weekly collection to $1,412.79 for an 8 cubic yard dumpster with 5 collections per week. So there's a big span there, different options if you're a commercial entity of how big a dumpster and the frequency that you would like it picked up. They would continue to provide 1 free annual pickup, as I mentioned, for hard-to-handle items and materials. Certain restrictions do apply. Additional pickups for yard waste debris will increase from $92 to $96.60 per 15-minute increments. Additional pickups for non-yard waste debris will increase from $101.20 to $106.80 per 15-minute increments. A full list of these proposed new rates is included in Exhibit 1. Again, we are happy to provide anyone calling the Finance Department, Utility Billing Department, and I believe in Public Works can provide this new proposed rate schedule to you. And if we could go back to the slide, just one slide for solid waste. We just simply put on here, this is the proposed residential rates effective October 1. That goes on your monthly utility bill. Our increase will be $35.35. That's 5% again. Tampa is, they're proposing a 9.5% increase, going up to $38.23. They actually have a schedule going out for years on this. Plant City, they're increasing everything by 3%, and so theirs remains the lowest at $29.18. And I will stand for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this? If not, council member questions for Mr. Ingram. Councilmember Fernandez.
I have the same question that I had for the water increases, and that is that this is what our anticipated increase based on making sure that the fund stays healthy and solvent and will take care of covering the increase in tipping fees that we get every year.
Yes, I will say that with the added part that the county is continuing to hit us with big increases. Mr. Wardenfeltz, our Public Works Director, has been trying to find some alternatives that has helped so that we're not 100% dependent on the county. If we were, this increase unfortunately might be more. This is a lesser increase than last year because our sanitation fund has made a very good turnaround. We're projecting for the next few years that it will even be less than 5% of increases, even keeping up with the county. However, it's a good question because that's always the wild card. The county, we are subject to the tipping fees that the county charges us. But again, we are looking at alternatives. We have done some cost-saving measures. So we think we're in a good spot right now.
So I just want to, I know we talked about this when we did the budget through that process, but I just want to make sure people are aware. Do we have a schedule of anticipated increases from the county for tipping fees, or is it just every year is a surprise?
When it comes to tipping fees from the county, and Jason, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as my experience, there's no schedule. It's random. They just decide this is what you're going to pay. So we can't anticipate that.
So that's all I have.
Other questions, council members? Thank you very much, Mr. Ingram. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the resolution of a 5% increase in monthly rates for city collection and disposal of solid waste and recyclable services.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion of the motion. Again, just a real quick comment. Mr. Ingram said it very well, but on this item, I have also spoken many times with the county administrator, Bonnie Wise, about this. I've also talked to their public works director about it directly also, and told her that this unexpectedness of their is killing us. And so I don't know if it will have any impact. I don't think I do think they care about us, but I don't think they're doing it on purpose. I think they've got a lot of squeezing of the balloon going on over there too. And so, but I have asked them to try to, they're raising money for infrastructure to do work on the incinerator. And so it seems like that should be a little more predictable than it is. So we'll see. The other thing is I do want the public to understand that for our solid waste bill, as you know, we gave everybody 95-gallon barrels a couple of years ago, and we still pick those 95-gallon barrels up at your home twice a week. And most cities that have gone to the barrel system of that size pick that up once a week. And so I hear from our residents, at least the ones that I talk to, that they don't want a reduction in service. We could potentially pick those barrels up once a week and realize a savings in what it cost us to do this. But I don't think that's what people in this city want. They want that picked up twice a week. So that's something to remember. And some of the cities, our peer cities that we show as comparators, they pick those barrels up once a week. So it's really not apples and apples. They're paying what they're paying, and they're getting once a week service. Our residents are getting twice a week service, plus yard waste, plus recycling. So they're getting touched 4 times a week. So, as they said in 1980, if you want a reduction in service, you can, but if you want the same service, it costs in today's world, it just costs, so. Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays? Resolution, unfortunately, necessary, but it passes. So, thank you. Next is a second public hearing and second reading of ordinance 1570, adopting the fiscal year 2025 tax levy. I will open the public hearing, and Mr. Ingram, who is getting his workout tonight, is here to explain.
All right. Get to the right page. In accordance with the applicable provisions of the city charter and the Florida statutes, the city council scheduled 2 public hearings on the property tax millage levy. The first hearing was held on September 3rd, 2024, to solicit public comments on the proposed property tax millage levy prior to the adoption of the annual budget for the 2025 fiscal year. The agenda has been structured to provide the council with the opportunity to comply with both city charter and Florida statutory requirements on the budget and tax levy. The council convened a public hearing on the proposed property tax millage levy and made announcements at the public hearing prior to formal consideration of the attached ordinance. The recommended City of Temple Terrace, Florida property tax millage rate for fiscal year 2025 is 6.455 per $1,000 of assessed value, which is the identical mill from the current fiscal year millage rate of 6.455. The recommended property tax millage rate of 6.455 is 0.3663 mils, or 6.02% higher than the rolled back rate of 6.0887. The main reasons for ad valorem tax revenues increasing are a proposed 4% cost of living adjustment to general employees and a 2% merit pay increase upon a successful performance evaluation. Funding for the first year of a new 3-year fire union contract. Funding for the second year of a 3-year police union contract. 24% increase in general liability insurance. 31% increase in property insurance. 12% increase in auto insurance. And a 12% increase in health insurance. An additional $52,000 in compliance, efficiency, and organizational security improvements. Overall, 4% increase in operational costs to maintain funding of current services and programs. I will also add that there have been some cost reductions, mainly a 6% decrease in building maintenance through consolidation and in-house use through our Public Works Department. The maximum millage rate allowed to adopt the rate with a majority vote is 6.4351. The maximum millage rate allowed to adopt the rate with a 2/3 vote is 7.0786. Therefore, a 2/3 affirmative vote of council is required to adopt the proposed millage rate of 6.455. In our case, that would be 4 out of 5. And I will stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council, are there any questions for Mr. Ingram? We've talked about the budget so much this year, it's hard to have any lingering questions at this point, I suppose. But if there are no questions, then I will close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting a millage rate of 6.455 mils for fiscal year 2025. Said millage rate being 0.3663 mils, or 6.02% more than the rollback rate of 6.0877 mils. Providing a severability clause and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
I move to approve Ordinance 1570, adopting the fiscal year 2025 tax levy upon second reading.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion of the motion. All those in favor say aye. Oh,
Roll call.
oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Yes, Ms. Shown, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Fernandez,
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers,
Yes.
Mayor Ross.
Yes.
Councilmember Schisler,
Yes.
Councilmember Abel.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the ordinance passes on second reading.
Thank you.
Next is second public hearing and second reading of ordinance 1571, adopting the fiscal year 2025 annual budget. I'll open the public hearing and ask Mr. Ingram to explain.
The proposed 2025 City of Temple Terrace budget reflects the following. The millage rate of 6.455 has not changed from last year's millage rate. A 5% increase in single-family residential and commercial sanitation rates beginning in October 1st, 2024. That includes $700,000 to replace 2 severely aging sanitation trucks. 5% increase in water, sewer, and irrigation rates beginning October 1st, 2024, for reasons already stated, as well as $4,855,500 in water and sewer infrastructure improvements, including $2 million for Phase 1 of the Bannockburn Downs Avenue water main construction. $7,766,200 in capital projects using unassigned general fund balance and other general fund reserves. And that's an important point because we're using reserves from savings that we built up, this does not affect our millage rate. It does not go into, otherwise the millage rate would probably have to be higher to pay for these. Among these projects are the Riverside Park construction, $3 million with an additional $400,000 from TIF reserves. The city obligation for a new city emergency operations center, that's $1.5 million with a $4.5 million grant from the state that was included in the fiscal year 24 budget. A public safety complex conceptual design, $200,000. Family Recreation Center Service Road Paving and Curbing Project for $750,000. And a new enterprise resource planning system for $2 million. An additional $2,036,274 in community investment tax fund expenditures to include replacing public safety vehicles and equipment, improvements for fire stations 1 and 2, City Hall and Public Works building renovations, and community parks and recreation facility improvements. Another $1.5 million in structural resurfacing projects, $725,000 in street improvement fund trucks, $825,000 in ARPA funded stormwater construction projects, which will be the last of the ARPA money, along with the money we've already appropriated for the Whiteway Utility Service Center. $250,000 in non-ARPA funded stormwater projects. $100,000 for the Centennial Celebration. $40,000 is from funds we have already restricted for that, and $60,000 from the unassigned fund balance, using our reserves. $187,785 for non-capital one-time expenditures using unassigned fund balance, including police equipment, recreational equipment, building fee study, software installation, and network security. 4% COLA salary increase for general employees and 2% merit pay increase upon a successful performance evaluation. And finally, a citywide increase of 2.75 FTEs. And I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Seeing none, council member questions for Mr. Ingram concerning the budget. Okay, very good.
About a question for you.
I'm sorry?
I have a comment, not a question.
Very good. I'll get you first.
That's right.
Okay, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, adopting the final operating budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2024, and ending September 30th, 2025, and the capital improvement budget, given notice of the public hearings thereon, authorizing the city manager to issue such instructions as are necessary to achieve and accomplish the service programs, authorizing the city manager or the finance director to transfer monies among the departments, and programs within any fund, authorizing the city manager or the finance director upon receipt of a donation or grant to appropriate said funds in the expenditure line item of the program as requested by the donor grantor, providing a severability clause, effective date, and repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
Yep, move to approve on second reading ordinance 1571 adopting the fiscal year 2025 annual budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Thank you. Comments on the discussion of the motion, and Councilmember Schisler.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only comment was this is my sixth official budget that I've been associated with, but 9 years working with the finance department on previous budgets. And, we rattle off a lot of numbers that makes it sound awful simple, but this is a process that is very, very complex, and there's a lot of plates in the air till you guys come up with a final number. And it's just amazing that you pull together and the budgets work. Okay, you can throw numbers around all day long, but in the end, when it's all said and done, if the budgets can't be trusted, it's all for naught. These budgets can be trusted, and I have no problem in supporting this. But comparatively speaking, I was doing the research for the 1980. We're spending what, $500,000, give or take, on the ERP system. There was a lot of gnashing of teeth, over $12,000 at this newfangled device that they were buying in finance called a computer. So I didn't have to use outside computer services. So we've come a long way since then.
Yes. Thank you.
Other comments? I should probably shut up, but I can't help it. I really want to thank the finance team and the city manager for all your work on this. But I also want the public to understand that I'm equally proud of the council and the previous councils going back at least to 2016. And since 2016, in 2016, our debt was staggering. We were in the 20s. At the high water mark, we were close to $30 million in debt from the redevelopment. And in 2016, we had less than $1 million in reserves. And so since that time, this is a big ship to turn this, but in 8 years, we now have a little over $10 million in debt, and it's the remaining debt's at 2.5 fixed, so the bank would love us to pay that off, I'm sure. But we now have exceeded our reserve goals to the point where we're funding some of our capital projects with cash. We've paid down the debt. We've got cash on hand to do the capital projects. We have, in the same period of time, lowered the millage rate twice, right, since 2016. We lowered the millage rate during COVID, which I don't think anybody else did. We are funding stormwater projects all throughout the city. Some of it's with federal money and some of it's with our money, as you heard. Our street maintenance is outstanding. I brag all the time about that because we don't have potholes on city streets. If we get a pothole, we fix it. And so now we do have some state and county roads in our city that I can't always say they don't have potholes, but our roads don't have potholes. We have upped our pay to be much more competitive in the market in this area. Our pay and benefits have improved, and they continue to improve, thanks to a lot of work from Carlos and the new HR director also. To our turnover in employees is almost zero now. I mean, we get retirement once in a while, but we don't have the turnover like we used to have. In fact, we're hiring people from other local governments are coming to work here now. So, our budget now, as Councilmember Schisler alluded to, is over $100 million. Now, that's all included, but this is not a sleepy little town anymore, and it's not easy to keep all of these priorities in place, and we're actually moving forward. We're not just keeping things going. We are moving forward. Our infrastructure is better. Our facilities are better. Our employees are better. You guys, ones that have been here are good too, but I mean, we've raised the bar on everything. So I'm very proud of not just my colleagues up here, but all the council members who have served in the past 6 to 8 years. Some of them are gone now, but I think there's a lot of credit due to city manager, to finance, and to my colleagues up here, so. Okay. All those in favor of the motion, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry, thank you. Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Fernandez.
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
Mayor Ross.
Yes.
Councilmember Schisler.
Yes.
Councilmember Abel.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very good. Budget is adopted. Thank you. Next is a public hearing. I bet you're glad to finally sit down. Next is a public hearing and second reading of ordinance 1572, amending chapter 18 of the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances entitled Parks, Recreation, Leisure Services, and Cultural Affairs.
Get a good rhythm going.
And I'll open the public hearing. And I got to think now, I'm used to calling Mr. Ingram up here. So Mr. Langfeld is here to explain.
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. I'm here tonight for the second reading of an ordinance amending Chapter 18 of the Code of Ordinances. This updates provide a cleanup of park hours and adds sections to address camping, drones, golfing, and animals. This ordinance, amending of this ordinance was passed in first reading on September 3rd City Council meeting. Since then, a minor change to Section 18-41 to clarify prohibited uses of recreational vehicles and other vehicles intended for overnight camping was made to the ordinance. I will stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Langfeld. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? And seeing none, council member questions for Mr. Langfeld? No?
No.
Okay, good. All right, I will then close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, amending Chapter 18 of the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances, Parks, Recreation, Leisure Services, and Cultural Affairs, under Article 2, Public Conduct in Parks, by revising Section 18-26 Boating, Section 18-28 Games, etc., Section 18-33 Times of Closing, Exceptions, Activity, Section 18-36 Merchandising, Vending, Peddling, etc., Section 18-39 Alcoholic Beverages, Section 18-41 Camping, creating Section 18-42 Aircraft, Parachuting, and Drones, creating Section 18-43 Golfing, and creating Section 18-44 Animals, providing for authority to codify, providing for applicability and severability, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing for an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Is there a motion?
Move to approve on second reading ordinance 1572, amending Chapter 18 of the City of Temple Terrace Code of Ordinances entitled Parks, Recreation, Leisure Services, and Cultural Affairs.
Second.
Motion second. Discussion of the motion, Councilmember Schisler.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment. Good job on this, Carl. But this is something that we've all looked at and campaigned on in the years past, is looking at our ordinances, refreshing them, bringing them up to current, and we've seen an acceleration of this, particularly since Carlos and Pam working together and all the department heads, and just want to say thank you. This is the stuff that we wanted to get done and to bring some of these ordinances that haven't been touched in years. So thank you very much. It's a good job.
Councilmember Chambers.
Thank you. This is kind of about this. This is not a historical fact, but I had to say it. Carl knows what I'm getting ready to say. But we had a problem years ago about people hitting golf balls on the 113th soccer fields and in Bonnie Bray Park, believe it or not. And we had at that time a dog issue, a lot of people with their dogs running around. So we had signs made. And when the signs came back, the signs that were put up, the sign said, no dogs hitting golf balls in the park. So I just want to let you know, those signs worked. There were no dogs hitting golf balls in the park. So this ordinance cleans up some of those things. Thank you very much, Mr. Langfeld.
Other comments, other discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Ordinance 1572 is adopted on second reading. Thank you, Mr. Langfeld. Next, council business. We have one item scheduled for this, and that is the issue of charter officer pay increases. As everybody should know, the the annual raises that apply to general employees do not necessarily apply to the 3 charter employees who are all 3 under contract, rather than just city employees. And therefore, we have to take specific action to vote whether to extend the same raises to the charter officers as the general employees, or different raises, or no raises. And we also need to discuss the timing of this, because the way we're giving the raises now is 4% on October 1st and then 2% upon a successful performance evaluation. So last year, we decided to do it, apply that same rule for the 3 charters, and give the 2% portion upon their anniversary date. I do want to point out, and whichever way you want to do that, we can do that same thing again. But one thing I would like to point out is we do treat the charter officers somewhat differently than the general employees, because we do their performance evaluations all at the same time. We don't do them on their anniversary dates, we do them in August. And so we do them in August in preparation for this discussion tonight, because we need to know how we feel about their performance before we discuss whether to give them raises or not. So there's one charter officer whose anniversary date is not until July. And so that charter officer gets 2% less for most of the year. And I don't know if you want to do that or if you want to give them all. So anyway, we need 2 things done. We need to decide what raises to give them and then how to structure it. So I'll open that up for any motions or discussions or however you want to do it.
I want to talk about the structure.
Okay?
And I know that, because in the email, you alluded to the fact that I was probably on council at the time when we created this original structure, the timing of the 2% on the anniversary date. And I honestly don't really remember the conversation around that, but my thought is that that 2% to me should be in alignment with the time that the evaluation is done. Versus, so for a traditional employee, you should be doing their evaluation around their anniversary date. Therefore, that merit increase would coincide with their anniversary. So to me, since we are not doing that because of the timing of when we do these evaluations, I think that if any merit pay that would be awarded should be in alignment with when the evaluation is done and not the anniversary date of employment.
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, though, because 2 of the charter officers that would get the 2% in October or November. We wouldn't want to hold off giving that until August. Is that?
No, I'm saying we just did the evaluations right now.
Okay.
So what, to me, what follows is then from that evaluation is when any merit pay, if we were going to award it, should be awarded based coming after that, not waiting to the following August.
So it would take effect like
October 1st.
Okay, I got you.
That would be the structure that makes sense to me.
Okay, well, let's see what others think. Councilmember Chambers.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Is it okay with everybody? Were you ready for a motion?
I'm good with an emotion.
Let's hear the motion.
My motion is to give the charter officers the same pay increase of 4% and 2% merit increase for this coming fiscal year. That's the first motion.
I'll second that.
Motion second. So your motion.
You asked for 2 things. I
Okay,
can
so
make it all in one motion if you'd like.
Would you? Would that be okay? I mean, you can make it however you want. We have a motion and a second.
We need to talk to second.
I would prefer to keep them separate at this point for further discussions on the
Okay,
other
so
issue.
So we
my
have a
motion
motion
stands.
of the amount.
Yes.
4 and 2, and we have a second. Is there discussion of this motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? No nays, so we have the amount figured out now.
Okay, the second motion would be to award the 2% merit increase when the evaluations are done, not on the anniversary date. The evaluations are done now, effective October 1.
A second.
Motion and second. Is there discussion of this motion?
Yes, a discussion. I have well, go ahead.
You made the motion, you can go first.
Okay. Well, you know, last year when we talked about this with regular employees, I voiced concern that some employees would get their 2% raises early in the year and some would wait till later. And that's what happened to our city clerk. And I thought about this all week. But I can support this for the city clerk since her evaluation or her anniversary date's later because we give it at their evaluation, which for regular employees coincides with their anniversary date. This does not. We evaluate all of them in the same time. So I can certainly support that, is why I made the motion.
Council Vice Mayor?
I have a question. So we did evaluations 2 weeks ago, or last month. And are we talking about doing that 2% like retro to that time? Or are we talking about in the future, making that happen in August going forward?
The October 1st.
It would be starting on October 1st. So,
That's the motion.
so the 2% and the 4% would occur at the same time.
Correct.
So does that mean that future councils would discuss whether they're going to do both or just one? Meaning both the 4% and the 2%? Or maybe they'd say like, okay, well, this charter officer is only going to get the 4%. Is that going to be something that could come up for discussion? Because
It could. We can't do anything about what future councils do. We can't shackle future councils with like perpetual rules or ordinances that they can't change. We can't do that.
well, I understand, but what I'm saying is, I mean, that sounds like a setup for kind of an awkward situation if we have it like that, as opposed to having actually at the evaluation time to do the raises. That's just my
But that's what
concern.
we're doing. The evaluations cover basically the fiscal year.
Okay, so they're designed that way to align with the fiscal year.
The reason we started doing, I started doing, this happened during my term as mayor. The reason I started doing evaluations in August was because this discussion came up one year, and Councilmember Donahue correctly brought up the fact that we're discussing raises and we haven't done performance evaluations, and we're discussing raises. It seems like we have the cart before the horse. And she was right, in my opinion. She was absolutely right. And I said, and I fairly new as mayor. I didn't realize, okay, so it's on me to try to figure out how to make this all work out. So I started doing them in August so that they would be freshly done in preparation for this discussion to coincide with the August or the October 1st budget. Now, we really need to make a decision tonight because there's people whose raises depend on it. But we can, if the council has better ideas about how to do this or want to do the evaluations differently or I'm not king. I mean, I'd be happy to, I got James first.
I'm almost done. Well, can I finish my thought?
Yes.
So I don't think we should do something different. I think that context, it makes sense. That's all.
Councilmember.
Okay, so thinking about what you said, if we do this tonight, if this motion passes, do we have to do this again next September?
Yes.
So we would have to keep doing it this way. So could we have a third motion after this that sets that in stone until a future council decides to change it?
Well, let's dispose of this
Okay.
issue, and then that sounds like that's kind of a separate but related issue. Is that fair enough?
Fair enough.
Well, to Councilman Chambers' point, my experience as HR director for a decade, and Tony can correct me if I'm wrong, if we don't do this on a regular basis, we set up a discriminatory policy between general employees and the charter employees. And I personally don't understand why we don't do that for all the employees. You have employees who are essentially start at the beginning of the year making the same, by the end of the year, you've got a disparity going forward. Okay, they're no longer making the same amount of money. And I understand we got evaluations and there's anniversary periods and stuff like that, but after the first or second year, the fact that their anniversary dates later in the year is becomes difficult to explain sometimes. So that's a philosophical thing, and I'm not sure. I don't think that's something the council should set, but I would just whatever HR and administration wants to do with that, just so that they think about the disparity that it tends to create. I agree that we need to establish that if we're going to be if we're going to be separate from the general employees, I think it needs to be a vote every year to clarify that, because so that we're recognizing that we're doing that and doing that on purpose. Although I do agree with it. I think everybody should get, you get a merit increase, you get a merit increase. If your anniversary, if you start at the end of the year, you miss out a whole year of potential increases. So do the evaluations at one time or split it in half, so it doesn't kill the managers in getting those done, because some of the departments are pretty big, but some are pretty small. So
So if we can, I'd like to dispose of the motion that's on the table now.
I agree.
Vote it up or down. And then as far as the policy towards the general employees, they don't work directly for us. So I would suggest you
understand
take
that.
that issue offline to Mr. Bahia and Mr. Nazario. And
that's why I said,
Yeah.
it's really not our purview, but
No,
it's
it's not.
something to think about.
Yeah, it is. And so the 3 charter officers work directly for us, and they're under contract. So it's a different situation. We have to do this every year. There's no automatic escalator clause in their contract, nor do I think there should be, because let's face it, we haven't always been happy with the performance. So I don't think it's fair to put an automatic escalator. We don't have that for our other employees, other than the unions.
I don't think he was trying to do that. I think it was just a matter of,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so the motion is to give them the 6% on October 1st.
Correct.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays. Motion passes. Now, you had another item.
Right. So I move that we establish a schedule to evaluate the 3 charter officers in August of every year, and with successful, and give any raises that we discuss on effective October 1st of that year with the new budget year. And that's all, we don't know what the raises would be, or if any raises. But establish a timeline that we do this every August with evaluations and award it October 1.
Can I respectfully ask you to postpone this? Let me tell you why. I'd like to have the opportunity to give this a little more thought as to the form of whether we should incorporate this into the council rules as opposed to just a standalone motion made at a meeting. I'm not opposed to the idea, but I've also, truthfully, am currently looking for a better evaluation system for the 3 charters. I've been talking to other mayors in other cities and FLC and the county and other people, because I'm not real convinced that our current evaluation tool is the best.
I withdraw my motion.
Well, thank you. I will, if it's your desire, I will come back to you with a report or some suggestions about what we might be able to do that might be better. As I said, I'm not real convinced that what we're doing is really, but I don't have the answer yet. And some of the cities that I've looked at, what they're doing is worse than what we're doing. It's just not, it's not good at all. So, there are some things out there with ICCMA and, what's the other one? Yeah, Yeah, there are some things out there, the core competencies, most of them are involved with the city manager. I'm still having some troubles with the clerk and the attorney, but is that okay with you if I come back with you?
It is, because if we don't do that tonight, we still have to do something next year, one way or the other. So,
Well, as long as I'm still the mayor next year, we'll do it in August, whether we make a motion or not, but,
So the current plan then goes back to the original motion, which is the 6% October 1st.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we settled that with
Okay,
two motions.
all right, just to make sure.
Okay. Good? Okay. Any other carryover council business?
I have a question for the city manager, but I could ask you when you're doing your city manager report. Or I could do it.
Whichever you prefer.
Okay, so, I'd like to know if we can have a more robust calendar on our website with as many city activities as we can put on there. And that that the links would be maybe live to whatever we have with, whatever backup information we might have on it. That if they clicked on the fire department open house on the calendar, it might bring up a flyer of the fire department open house, or would that be?
Yeah, yes, so we can do that. Just for clarification, you're just talking about city-controlled events?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes.
We can definitely do that.
Yeah, I know people, I mean, my thought is including like the different city meetings that would happen, and then if you click on the meeting, then it tells you where it is and what time.
Yeah, no, it's a great observation, because Joel and his team, they're working through the new website right now, so we're actually in sort of a beta mode, asking all the department directors to find things that need to improve on, so that we'll add this to the list.
Okay, perfect. And then, along that note, do we have a date for the fire department open house? And is Temple Terrace Reads occurring in conjunction with that event, or are they separate?
Ask the fire chief to come up.
Because I know it's usually pretty early in October.
I can look at my calendar real quick. We do have a date, and we are not teaming up with Temple Terrace Reads this year.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is in October. I want to say it's the first weekend, but I'll double check.
Okay,
We can provide that to you in your council update this week.
okay. That was it.
Any other carryover council business? Okay, new business and board reports. Any new business, board reports? I have one quick thing for you. The discussion of the merged TPO, Transportation Planning Organization, continues. We have a meeting Friday. As you know from the past, I'm one of the 3 members of the Hillsborough TPO who have been designated as, I don't know, negotiators is not probably the right word, but I guess that's the best word that describes it. So we meet periodically with the Pinellas and Pasco. We all meet to discuss certain issues related to the proposed merger. This meeting on Friday is of particular interest to us because it is to discuss the role of the small cities in the proposed merger. And so I asked the Hillsborough TPO to approach it a certain way to give us a little latitude in the discussion, and they did. Because particularly Pinellas, this is really kind of a bigger issue for Pinellas than it is, well, it's important to us too, but it's a thorny problem in Pinellas because they have, 25 cities or whatever they have. And so the Hillsborough TPO's position that they have sent the 3 of us in to present on Friday is that out of the apportionment, if we do it by population, Hillsborough County would get 11 seats out of the 25. We want just to be left to make our own decisions about how to fill those 11 seats. And then Hillsborough would decide how to do that. We think there would probably be ample room for Temple Terrace and Plant City to retain their seats and continue to be on the TPO even if it merged. and then let Pinellas figure out what they want to do and Pasco figure out what they want to do. So that's what we'll be presenting to them on Friday. So just to give you a heads up on that. That's it. Any other new business or board reports? Okay. Mr. Bia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. For a couple of things, I wanted to echo the comments that were made by the council about the budgeting process. I sound like a nerd when I say this, but it actually was pretty exciting. It was a great process. When you have good people working with you, I think it makes everything go really well. We had a lot of creativity, and that's largely due to all of the department directors sitting here in the room. I particularly want to recognize Mr. Ingram and Ms. Newman because they drove the ship, and we couldn't have done it without that great cooperation, collaboration. So thank you very much for them and all the department directors. I also wanted to thank the council on my behalf, as well as I'm sure the other charter officers, for your consideration this evening with the raises and the evaluations. Thank you for your continued support for us and for the work that we're trying to do here and accomplish. I think we're all trying to get this organization to be, as the mayor said, it's good, it's getting better, and living up to the motto of being an amazing city. So we appreciate that. Thank you. And then the final thing I have this evening, I'd like to invite Carl up, Mr. Langfeld, to talk about our Senior Expo on Friday.
Good
evening, Mayor, members of City Council. Carl Langfeld, Leisure Services Director. This Friday at the Omar K. Lightfoot Recreation Center, we will be holding our 35th annual Senior Expo. It will be taking place from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and the presenting sponsor is the Family Hearing Center. I will be hosting 35-plus vendors, everything from medical services, insurance, legal services, county and city services, and pretty much any other service that could be geared towards senior needs. So come join us, the multipurpose room, for presentations explaining their products and services. Additionally, they will have screenings such as hearing tests that will be offered during the event. Also, Florida Gulf Coast Alzheimer's Association will be bringing out their brain bus, where they also do evaluations. Again, this is the title sponsor, the Family Hearing Center, also sponsored by Glidewell Advisors, the Spinks Law Firm, Claire Medica Primary Care, Aston Health, and MC Ice. So we hope to see all of you this Friday at the Omar K. Lightfoot Center between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. for the annual Senior Expo. Thank you.
Mr. Langfeld, and I will be in Pinellas County talking about the proposed TPO merger, so hopefully somebody, some of my colleagues can make it, but I won't be able to be there. So. Yes.
I wanted to say too, the Senior Expo is not just for seniors. It is for everybody. Don't laugh, because I qualify now. But when my parents were aging, I went not only as a rec center there, but I went there as a person to find out what's out there for senior citizens. And it's a very good tool if you've got elderly parents coming up and stuff. So it's not just for seniors to go there. There's a lot of information.
Well, just to clarify, I was going as the mayor, not as a senior. Okay, Mr. Bia.
That's all I have.
That's all you have. Good. Just, City Attorney, Mr. Schoen's report.
Thank you. I have some lien reductions that were settled. The first one involved 13105 North 52nd Street. This was an unscreened RV. The property owner then died. The property then went into foreclosure, which took quite some time. During the foreclosure, no one actually had legal responsibility, so the RV stayed there, and the lien amount rose to $9,800. Unfortunately, when you have a foreclosure, because the mortgage occurred before our liens attached, we end up being foreclosed out of our liens, so to speak, and so we generally can't collect anything. However, Our city costs were $250, and the new owner, who was the one who foreclosed on his mortgage, he is paying those city costs of $250 that applied to the RV that was from the prior owner. So it was not, the RV was not his fault, but the property is now his. There was a second case that involved a tree removal without a permit. That ended up being a $4,000 lien, and our city costs were $250, and the current owner is also paying the $250. So from that, we at least got our city costs paid, and the
Is that a
RV
new owner
is
also?
gone.
The tree case, is that a new owner also?
The tree case was the prior one who passed away.
Oh.
So,
Oh, same property.
yeah, same property, same owners, but now it's in the hands of the person who had given the mortgage. I did have a second one. This involved 418 Dunedin Circle. This was also an unscreened RV on residential property. In that particular case, it was a couple living there. The husband passed away in 2021. It took time for the elderly property owner to sell the RV and get that off the property. The city's costs were $250. The lien was $5,850, and the property owner, we settled that for $500. So we got $250 cost back plus $250. So that's been paid. We've been involved in 2 lawsuits concerning a case that started as a code case that involved the clear cutting of over 20 trees on an undeveloped lot. This went in front of the Code Enforcement Board, who found the property owners in violation and imposed a hefty fine, which turned into a rather large lien. The property owners sued the city in federal court, alleging that the city had no right to prosecute them for what they did under the tree cutting, the state's tree cutting statute. That we've now settled. We've now settled that lawsuit, and the property owners will be paying the city $80,000 under the agreement. So that one's done. That's it.
Questions, Councilmember Schisler?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Schoen. I was skeptical of the settlement process that you guys wanted to do, but you took a very difficult job over and have done remarkable with it. And thank you, because a lot of that was really agonizing to go through some of those. And with the a side note is some of the code cases that you've taken to the county court. That's been successful also in getting these things rectified.
And
That's a big
I
deal.
have to say that my deputy city attorney, Ernie Mueller, handles a great deal of this. So.
Good, other questions? I'd also like to give kudos to our code board. I know that they have wrestled for a long time with some of these cases, and they do a really good job for us, and that is, we have a couple of quasi-judicial boards, but I don't think any of them have as many cases on a regular basis as the code board, and so really want to thank our code board members and volunteers who do that. So, anything else? That's it. Council, any other business to come before the council tonight? Directors, we're all good? Yes, Fire Chief. Mr. Fire Chief.
I apologize, I said the wrong date. It's October 19th is when our open house is, and everybody's invited, especially our seniors. So I'd like to see everybody there.
That was a relatively pointed comment.
Oh, very good. Thank you, Chief. We'll be adjourned.